You're listening to Digital Employee Experience, a show for IT changemakers. Let's get into the show.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to a very change-orientated episode of The Deck Show. I'm Tom McGrath, joined as ever by Tim Flower. Tim, very good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited by today's super special guest, Rainer Karcher, Global Director for IT Sustainability at Siemens. Rainer, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Hey, good seeing you.
And I think last time we spoke, you were staying in a carbon-neutral hotel. So I just have one question for you, because I'd never heard of a thing before you told me about it. Tell me one standout difference between carbon neutral hotel, average hotel, and I hope it has nothing to do with the bathrooms. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think that the main difference is that the whole area of the hotel is being with a PV on top. So they are producing their own energy, which they're consuming, and even more. So they are selling the energy then to the community around. They're using gray water, so rainwater, which is coming down, is being used then for flushing the toilet, for example, to save water. And what they do in addition is they only use organic food in the restaurants and in the evenings. All the drinks are organic. So what they do is they are trying to minimize their carbon emissions of everything they do. So I think that's the difference.
So it does have something to do with the bathroom, Rainer. That's what you're telling me. I knew it might.
Is very timely. Rainer, obviously you're on, you mentioned you're on vacation, and the hotels that you're staying in, I think that's great to be intentional about where you stay and the type of places you visit. Let's transition that though to green IT. The concept, at least for me as an enterprise IT guy, has been around for a long time. IT has an ability to influence the environment that we work in. In general, it means reducing the energy impact of IT on the environment. But I think for a lot of people, that notion of green IT may still be a bit new. So let's take a step back and start with kind of some of the in your view, kind of the bad news of the equation. There's been a love affair for decades with digitalization of everything that we do, especially in this remote work world. I'm curious what, in your view, are the cost implications, as well as maybe some of the non-financials and the impacts overall. What's your view kind of green IT?
Well, actually, I think the pandemic has quite recently shown that digitalization is everywhere, and we're even proceeding further with full speed now to digitalize even more of what used to be in a more physical way. So one example is exactly what we do right now. So in former times, we might have had a chance maybe to come together physically, travel somewhere. I think that is one of the first topics I would like to point out. At the beginning of the pandemic, I've heard a lot of people telling, well, now everything is perfectly fine and we'll be better with the climate conditions because we're just reducing the travel. So aviation and everything has been reduced. So therefore, amount of carbon emissions in the atmosphere has been dramatically reduced as well. But unfortunately, this is not the case. So due to the pandemic, streaming, for example, massively exploded. Gaming massively exploded. A lot of people stuck at home are making use of physical or virtual now instead of physical. And this is, I think, having a huge impact. So just of what we know, in 2020, the amount of energy consumed worldwide on data centers increased by 40%. 40% more energy consumption just because of the pandemic. And everywhere where is energy consumed, it requires some kind of production of energy. And unfortunately, not all data center providers, not everybody who is making use of any kind of digital services is already on renewable energy purely. So there is carbon emissions with coal burnings and stuff. So that is one of the effects. Talking about financials, I mean, everybody is quite well aware of Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies. If you just think about it, what is being done day by day on a virtual surrounding. So there is nothing physically produced. There is nothing you can take into your hands. It's completely virtual. The whole currency is virtual. And the amount of energy which was used only for Bitcoin, I'm not blaming Bitcoin now, so please don't get me wrong. It's just an example which is quite grabbable for everybody. The amount of energy which was used for mining of Bitcoins in 2020 was the same amount that Switzerland as a whole country used in the same time. So I think that is two examples to make it just grabbable and understandable that the more we digitalize, the more we get into green IT, the more we need to take care on that topic. It might not have been that much present in the past, and mostly it's I always contain and compare it with the topic of waste. So in Germany, we do have a very good waste treatment, and there is recycling and stuff. So as soon as there is once a week, the guys picking it up, I just have it out of sight and I don't think about it anymore. And the problem is, having it out of sight doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, it's still there and it needs treatment. And the same is with IT and digitalization. So if I think about myself, there is a lot of topics I have as a starting point. And exactly as you mentioned, Tim, I think it's quite important to have something to start with. And it's something which is on a day-by-day usage on ourselves, and that is IT. So the topic of green IT, and just summarizing and trying to close the circle now, is mostly about making ourselves and the behavior of what we do, making use of IT, a more green, a more decarbonized, a more efficient way of making use of that. So that is one part of what I'm doing.
It's an excellent primer, Rainer, and a primer for what we're here to do today, which is something a little bit different than the standard Deck Show interview. It's the Green IT tier list. So if anyone doesn't know what a tier list is, it's an internet thing, you might say. So you've got to imagine a series of vertical columns. At the bottom you have D, and that would be the worst, lowest type of something. Then you go up to C, then B, then A, then an S, and the S stands for superb, the very top tier of whatever it is you're grading. So we're doing a green IT tier list. So my invitation to you, Rainer, is to get us going. Start way down at the bottom on D. Let's focus on user behavior. What's the lousiest green IT user behavior you could articulate or envisage? What's the Mr. Burns of IT user gonna be up to exactly?
Mr. Burns is a perfect example that brings up now a couple of pictures in my mind. So, well, on the worst and the D rating, I would assume is a guy who is making a unrealistic type of a use day by day of his equipment, keeps it running all day long, keeps it charged and plugged into the charger all day long. Same with the smartphone and the tablet and multiple type of devices, which are exchanged on a very rapid way. So every, 1.5, 2 years, whenever the smartphone providers are bringing up the newest model, he's exchanging it and just throwing the old one away, not taking care on refurbishment or recycling. He just doesn't care on any kind of data storage, so he just keeps stored everything because maybe it might be useful somewhere in the future. And anyhow, storage doesn't matter, it doesn't cost a thing, so therefore just keep it there and within the cloud. And I mean, having, maybe a standard browser open instead of any kind of a sustainable version, and indeed just sending emails with attachments back and forth, making use of any kind of smaller pictures in presentations, but keeping them big as much as they can, 25 megabytes one, and send them around multiple times. So this is, I think, the worst case, and to make it even worse and put it in a D rating, this is one type of a guy who's having maybe sliced sausage in the morning for breakfast, is going for a currywurst in lunch break, and in the evening for schnitzel. So that type of a guy would be the worst, I would say.
Other than the all-sausage German diet you just described, he might resemble the man in the mirror over here a little bit. Although I never knew there was such a thing as a sustainable browser. Did you say?
Well, there is indeed Ecosia, which I'm always happy to make a bit of advertisement for. So Ecosia is an NGO which was founded in Berlin some years ago, and whatever they do is all the money which is coming in by advertisement. So the search engine behind is Bing. So this is producing the same results if you search for something than Google, for example. And on the other side, I mean, Google is always telling them they are a decarbonized and green company as well. Well, this is true. So Google is using at least green energy on their data centers, as far as I know. But they are still making money out of it. So this is the difference. And Ecosia is an NGO, which is non-profit. So therefore, everything which they earn is being spent to plant trees. So they're supporting tree plantings and reforestations and other kind of social projects all around the globe, which always has the focus to decarbonize the planet.
Love it.
Yeah, that goes back to what we said earlier, right? Be intentional about what we do for the right outcomes. So let's move on to the C tier, and I'm going to stay with Tom's theme. Let's move to Homer. Homer is still a little bit negative, right? But he's a little bit clueless. He doesn't know the things that he's doing are bad. He's not very educated. But holistically, all of those little things that he does, they kind of add up to a lot of bad stuff. So what would you put on that Homer tier, that C tier of things that add up?
Well, maybe that is a guy who is, as I said, not quite aware of what he is doing, but at least he's open-minded. So he would most likely act a bit different if he just get trained. If there's something available, he can easily access. But as far as he doesn't know about it, he still has some kind of old-fashioned behavior. So he might not be the one who's keeping the laptop all the time running 24/7. Maybe he at least shuts it off on a Friday in the evening and keeps it shut it off over the weekend. Maybe so that's a first bit of a different behavior. Secondly, he's maybe too lazy, and now sticking with the idea of Homer, to exchange his devices every second year. So maybe he's just making use of it a bit longer, and maybe after 4.5 or 5 years, which is, by the way, the average of laptop usage from what I know in the typical user surroundings. So Homer is maybe a bit more aware of how he's behaving, but he's not at all educated. And so therefore he's doing the same. He's just storing everything. He's not getting rid of emails. He's not deleting them. He's just keeping them maybe in the deleted folder or even in the inbox. So this is the type of a guy who most likely has about 1,500 unread emails in his inbox, and therefore not taking care of it too much. Maybe that's a C rating then.
That's great. Let's go to the B tier, and I'm going to call this one the Lisa tier. So positive behaviors, right? The things that people do that are good, and have a positive connotation, whether it's small or large, but that can make a cumulative difference. What kinds of things fall into that Lisa B tier?
Very nice to have that with Lisa. Well, I think Lisa is indeed educated, so she's a bit more aware of what's going on and what the outcome of her behavior looks like, and therefore she is, for example, treating the search topic with Ecosia or with any kind of equivalent, and making use of such things. So she's already engaged, and she's maybe then having taken care of the equipment way more than Homer, and she's, after that 4 year or 4.5 year usage, for example, not just putting it somewhere in trash, but taking care on refurbishment of the equipment, to just follow the circular economy principles, which is, by the way, an upcoming topic for most of us. So I think we are now spread into 2 continents, so to the Americas and to Europe, which is valid for both of us. So the EU Green Deal and the Biden New Green Deal, which is bothly focusing on circular economy, will exactly take care on this. And we need to report anyhow on how much of our devices has been used in refurbishment or at least recycled. So just throwing them away is not the best thing to do. And Lisa is now able to do so. So she's aware of it. She knows the process behind, and she's taking care on that. And I mean, what she's doing then on top is maybe helping her colleagues. So she's maybe training and educating already a bit of her colleagues, telling them, hey, next time, just better don't send an email. Just drop me a instant message, maybe in one of the chat tools which we are using. Maybe just put a link somewhere on a OneDrive share on any kind of cloud services, and don't attach the PowerPoint slides. And maybe the next time you're making use of that, you're already having a smaller version of the pictures attached and not keeping them in full resolution. And she's doing that herself already most of the time. So this is, from my point of view, maybe Lisa or B.
Fantastic. I mean, I feel like I'd love to keep the Simpson tier analogy going, but I feel like with Lisa, you really basically hit superb.
Yeah.
You went right to, I mean, who's better?
Marge.
Who's better than Lisa?
You gotta go to Marge. Marge is the ultimate.
But I don't feel that Marge is like super conscientious of the environment in the way that Lisa is. That's not how I think of it. I would probably, okay, we'll go with Marge though. We'll go with Marge. She's a good center of the family, of course. So we're near the top now, A. And let's think here less, Rainer, about user behavior and a bit more about corporate behavior. Some of the really impactful things that companies can do, and quite possibly, I expect that perhaps Siemens are themselves already doing, to encourage better awareness or user behavior en masse.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Tom. I think the main difference from Lisa now to Marge is that Marge, indeed, as the center of the family, is acting like we are acting as sustainability in IT to the remaining companies. So we are trying to engage others. So we are starting campaigns, and I think Marge is now educating the whole community like we are commuting and acting and interacting with the remaining companies. So we are trying to just show and harmonize, for example, processes globally. So the topic of refurbishment is one of the examples which we at Siemens make use of since more than 8 years now, but only in EMEA. So we're making use in Germany, in Austria, and in Switzerland. So what we're trying to do until end of this calendar year is expand it, harmonize it, globalize it, and make it available everywhere. We do have around 300,000 employees worldwide. And I mean, in India, for example, there is more than 1,500. In China, same amount. So there is a lot of equipment dumped there currently as well, or not really taken care of in a standardized and structured way, and in a process which is then comparable to what we do in Germany. So this is one example, and I think Marge is now running around and telling and trying to influence the remaining part of the company. And she's now helping others, she's training others, she's maybe creating a community, like we created a so-called IT Sustainability Ambassador Group. So this is people which are spread all across the company and all across different regions and business units, just simply to spread the word and just make influence into that direction, but the other way around. So two-lane road, get feedback, get input then from those colleagues as well. And I think Marge is then taking care as well, not only telling people, but trying to understand what is maybe then the needs they do have. So Marge is asking and running around and trying to support businesses, for example, if they do have certain challenges they have to face. And I think the topic, as I mentioned at the beginning, is indeed one of those which is hitting us quite recently on a very high level, is reporting of any kind of activities we are doing. So it's investors, it's any kind of shareholders, it's anybody from partners to customers to externals to press and to media who's asking to have reliable ways to report what is Siemens currently doing. And this is, I think, something which is a grade A then, someone who's taking care on that, and not only on yourself from your own perspective, but trying to get the view then from the outside as well, and making use of that and expanding of what you do. And just now to expand from A, maybe then going already into the direction of S, which I'm, by the way, quite curious now to see who is then the superb version, as we have Marge already mentioned.
Yeah, I have some thoughts, but what do you think, Tom?
Well, I was going to say, as we move on to S tier, the Green IT Elite, there can only be one standout Simpsons candidate to represent that, and that is, of course, Grandpa Simpson. So, the standout.
Grandpa.
Go on, Tim.
No,
you got an actual one, haven't you?
I was going to say Ned Flanders. Ned is the perfect neighbor, right? And he is. If there's anybody in The Simpsons that you could call elite, it has to be Ned.
The late Ned, of course. True. I believe. But excellent. Okay, we're on our Simpsons Green IT tier list.
Ned Flanders.
I don't know how we've gone so off the rails here, people. We are now on the S tier, the Green IT Elite, the standout, most impactful things companies can do today to make a significant difference to carbon emissions, Rainer, are...
Yeah, I think Ned Flanders is a perfect way to explain this one. Always very much supportive, always very kind and very handsome and very nice. So I think that is indeed the superb version. So the superb type of a guy who is already doing everything which I just mentioned, he's quite well aware of what the outcome is engaged actively and is creating, like we do in Siemens, grassroots activity. So we are very much supported by the company. So Siemens as a company is very much engaged with any kind of volunteering activities. So we do have 2 days per year, per fiscal year for free to make use of volunteering activities in any way which has a social impact or environmental impact, for example. So this is then resulting in tree plantings, in deadwood hedges, in any kind of beehives which we are planting and such things. So I think that is something which then puts the little cream on top and the sugar on the cream, which is making it superb. So if someone is not only engaging actively and not only supporting within his regular typical type of responsibility, but going above, going the extra mile and doing additional things, maybe then even in private time and maybe, I don't know, over weekends, and engaging others. And I think taking that kind of an influence and trying to interact with others are the real game changers. Those are the type of persons which we need in the company, who are then focusing and influencing and inspire others. And it mostly comes with passion. If you have passion for something, in a way, like it's not effort, like it's not something you have to do, but you love to do, then I think this is making the difference. And now coming back to Ned Flanders, I mean, Ned Flanders is passionate for religion, and therefore it's not making efforts to him. It's just something he loves to do and spread the word. And that's exactly same topic with a couple of us for sustainability. I mean, we all have to. There is no choice. We have to save the planet. And but some do that with passion. Some others do that because they have to and they're asked for. And I can admit for myself, I do that not because I'm asked for. I brought myself into this position. I was never asked. I never applied for something. The position for sustainability at IT was created on purpose because I mentioned to our CIO, to Hannah Hennig, that I think that we need to have someone who's taking care of that. And it urgently expanded from sustainability and the perspective of carbon into corporate social responsibility then as well. And this is now a full spectrum of topics which we're taking care of. And there is many, many more coming across and joining me in Siemens and having the same type of a passion. And this is then the Ned Flanders effect. So now I have something in mind and keep that.
That's great.
You are our Ned Flanders right now. I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a compliment or not, Rainer.
No, I
we'll
don't
figure
know.
that out later. At least he didn't call you Bart, right?
True.
It was a compliment, I guess.
So last question for you, Rainer. When all of these Simpson characters get into their time machine and they go forward down the road, what do you and Siemens Green IT, what does the roadmap look like when you look a few years ahead? What do you see coming down the road that really excites you?
Well, first of all, I think on a shorter way, so the next 2 years, maybe 3 years, I'm very much looking forward to have at least the IT part of Siemens already decarbonized as much as we can and really make a change and a difference together with partners. And this is something which I am already excited about. So making use of partnerships and joint forces is keeping people and bringing people together who do share the same type of a passion. This is something which I never would have expected up front. So there's so many different partners and vendors we're working together, like you, which is just bringing that type of a passion and joining forces, working for the same goals. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we do have a Siemens.com mail address or any kind of others. It's always the same type of goal we are striving for and we're working together with. So therefore, I think this is making a huge change and a huge difference for the next 2 to 3 years. On a long run, I think what really would make me really happy is to see that digitalization and technical solutions are helping us to have a solution presented for the urgency of the carbon emissions which we are currently facing. The problem I just see is we're running out of time. So it's not only 5 to 12, it's 5 seconds to 12. And this is, I think, the main reason why we need to come up with technical solutions. So I just recently had listened to a scientific call from various different scientists who all very much committed that we are running out of time in regard of tree plantings and making compensations with renaturings and reforestations, for example, because this is taking way too much time. So planting a tree today is taking at least 10 years when it's starting then to remove carbon from the atmosphere. And until then, it's not helping at all. So therefore, we need to have technical solutions. And I think that digital and digitalization are, again, enablers for this. And it requires us to work together. It requires us to engage people to all pull that rope into one direction. And what I think is, in particular, working together with guys like you, this is helping to engage even more. So there is a lot of people who are not aware at all of what the situation looks like today, and we need to get them. I think the problem of the science of the last 30, 40, 50, even more years is they always told us, if you just look at newspapers from, I don't know, the late 19th century, 1910, 1920 something, there was already scientists telling if we don't stop emitting carbon, then there is such kind of an effect, which is now already hitting us. But I think the problem is that they never understood to speak in a language which is understood by 95% of humanity. They always spoke in such kind of a scientific way. And I think this is something which we can do different because we are experienced in customer centricity. We are experienced in treating people like they are, and just trying to take their view and put ourselves on their chair and translate the scientific words into something which is understandable by everything. And I think that is something where we can maybe be the influence and the best influence which is there. And this is something I'm very much looking forward to achieve exactly this, to achieve that people are aware of what's going on and that they don't complain anymore, that they don't close their eyes and just keep going because it's the more convenient way, but they are aware of what's happening and therefore just treat things different. So this is what I would hope to see then in at least, 5, 6 or 7 years. I'm not taking it too much for in the next 10 or 15 years, because that's anyhow way too long. So we need to act way faster. So, but 5 years is already for us in IT a future.
They need to see it and feel it and make it real, right? We have to make it real.
You just need to reduce it to a Simpsons themed tier list.
There you go. Well, I'm gonna have lunch and go watch some cartoon reruns now. So
good man. On that bombshell, we loved the tier list, Simpsons or no Simpsons. Rainer, thank you for that. I hope the audience appreciated it too, and I'm sure they did, particularly if the whole area of green IT is something that's relatively new to them. And if that is indeed the case, they might like to learn a little more about what we've covered today. Check the show notes for Rainer's brilliant new DexHub article, which is called Darker Backgrounds, Brighter Futures, Siemens Real World Green IT. So do give that a read. It's a good one. Rainer, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thanks, Rainer.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.